Welcome once again to my CAS Demos channel. Today, in a short video, I want to explain something that normally is complicated in different cases, and is try to explain Purview. What's happened every time that someone asks me, or when I need to go and explain Purview, or if we go to the Microsoft public page to explain Purview, every time we fall in products. And that is complicated to try to explain to end users or customers what's mean Purview. For that same reason, today I will try to explain in another way how we can talk about Purview. And let permit me to share this specific visual diagram that I have here, and we'll start discussing about Purview. Let's go. Okay, here you can see a common user inside of the corporate network. That same user can access to a local drive, web pages, external drives, printer. That same user can access to third-party application. The same user can access to several local repositories. And we know that here we can find a real Pandora box because not all the time the information is stored in the right place, in the right path. We can have duplicate files and several versions for a same file. Then this same user can share with areas inside the organization with process that means cross to several areas. This same user is sharing in all these cases. Then the same user start storing some information on cloud, start storing on third-party cloud services, on Microsoft 365 services, or in Azure. What's happened then? The same user go out from the corporate network and from home, maybe in a travel, in an airport, through an external access, the same user try to access to the data. And to access, use a personal device, a corporate device, a mobile device. Additionally, we can have contractors or interns that have our domains. In my case, caslivedemos.com, that is the domain that I use. Again, with personal, third-party corporate devices, mobile devices, accessing to the same data. We have APIs, several cloud applications or mobile applications that are accessing to our data. The most common case is the native email client in a phone. You can configure to connect anytime, reviewing calendar, reviewing contact, identifying if you're receiving an email or not. That is out of use Outlook mobile. That is a simple one, but we can find several of third-party cloud applications that can access, and the end users, our end users in our organization, give access to those applications through a token, and that token permit to access to the data every time at every moment without request some additional action from end users. And finally, we can find the external users. That means provider, customers, vendors, students, family, friends, everyone with every day we are sharing information, sending email, receiving emails, and more. All these red lines that you can see here can be leak vectors. And here we can start defining Purview. Purview as a solution for data governance, data control, data protection, it's possible to permit us to start protecting, controlling, and mitigating all the data that is going through these leak vectors. In that case, we can find DLP, endpoint DLP, unified labeling, communication compliance, information barriers, MIP scanner, and several other capabilities that are available on Purview. What's happened? When we talk about data lake vectors and these red lines, one of the first point and the most complicated point is try to identify all the information asset. To identify the information asset, we need to identify the data classifiers. That means sensitive information types, document fingerprint, trainable classifiers, or exact data match. Because it's easy to find as an average of 600 information assets or more, and traducing those information assets to sensitive information types is around the 4 part. That means 150 different sensitive information types, complex sensitive information types. I'm trying to explain and saying here, it's not only a PCI. We need to identify, in the case of PII, not only a name, because a signature have an email, in an email have a full name or full address or phone number. When we have a different components like an Excel file with full name, full address, email address, phone number, identification number, that is a complex sensitive information types. But based on the source to that same Excel file, we can call employees, provider, customers, students, teachers, and several other names. But the structure of that uh, sensitive information type is very similar. That is these complex sensitive information types, and through the data classifiers, we can use sensitive information types using regular expressions, keyword dictionaries or functions, or trainable classifier, or document fingerprint, or exact data match. Because we are not able to identify all our information assets today, with log, maybe you are covering with the default ones 20% of the information asset. In that order of idea, there exists an 80% of data that we are not able to control or identify. That is words. That is, we can call that false negative when we talk about DLP. For that reason, talking about Purview, the next step is to start talking about information as information protection, sensitivity labels. We need to classify the data. We need to classify and protect the data. We need to use the classification to identify the data that we are not able to identify automatically because we don't have those data classifiers. Now, because we are using the sensitive information types and the sensitivity labels, we are able to cover a more wide level of information asset. And with that, we can start talking about data loss prevention. With data loss prevention, we can avoid that some of those data classifiers, or that's mean information asset, or the data that is classified through the sensitivity labels, go out or be shared with external people that doesn't have an NDA or maybe doesn't need to access to that information. Then, when we talk about local repos, we can start talking about MIP scanner. MIP scanner is part of information protection of the sensitivity labels. That is an on-prem tool that permits to identify, discover all the data that is located on-prem and apply labels for classification or classification and protection. When we talk, when we start sharing internally with other colleagues inside the organization, we can use communication compliance to see those conversations or at least identify some patterns on those conversations. We are not reviewing the conversation as is. We are discovering some common words related to money laundering, manipulate stocks, maybe some words that are not in the line with the organization view. Teams is another big deal. Every time that we are working on Teams, we can have the problem to share some sensitive information type in a team that is shared with other people, or maybe someone had someone else in a Teams, and we are sharing some sensitive information. Information barriers is another tool that help us to protect all of that. When you view the license for E5 compliance, you will see that MDCA is part of that. Through section control policy, we can do a lot of activities related to mitigate, control, and block some activities related to cloud services. You can see past videos about data classifiers, about sensitivity labels, about endpoint DLP, and inclusive in this point, Purview data map. Here on Azure, we have another component that permit to identify all the structured data that is accessed by this user and others, and classify that information. Nevertheless, this is very important. The people that know me knows that all the time I am talking about Purview like a big puzzle with several pieces. And we need to understand how all those pieces work together and make synergy. In that order of idea, exists other Microsoft 365 components that can be considered part of this data governance. In that order of idea, it's very important to understand that Microsoft Entra ID is a core tool that is required for Microsoft Purview. We can create adaptive scope. We can set permissions based on group. We can set some access to a specific account or a specific domains. Is Microsoft Entra the one that is focused on manage those identities and control who is accessing, and set conditional access to force the access through web. And through web, we can apply section control policy from MDCA. Inclusive, when this user connect from outside of the corporate network, we can start talking about mobile device management, mobile application management, and other tools that are not part of Purview, but are related to Purview. That is in general, and I hope that you enjoyed this short video explaining what's mean, or another way to explain today what is Purview. Thanks for joining in this short video, and I hope that you can subscribe and like to the video. Have a good one.